What happens if you strap 4 telescopes together? Could they actually become one much stronger telescope? Hi everyone, I'm Ethan. This is Rooftop Astronomy. At professional observatories, you often see something quite unusual. It's not just one telescope, it's actually many telescopes working together. They almost look like an insect's compound eyes. This kind of system is called a telescope array. A famous example is the Dragonfly telephoto array. It will be built from 1,140 Canon 400mm f2.8 lenses. When it's finished, it will effectively become a 4.8 meter telescope with an incredible f0.08 focal ratio. Working together as an array, it can capture extremely faint galaxy structures, signals that normal telescopes can barely detect. The idea behind an array is actually quite simple. Astronomical targets are usually extremely faint. The advantage of an array is that multiple telescopes collect photons at the same time. In simple terms, the more telescopes you have, the faster you collect light. Arrays are also the dream equipment of many astronomical experts. But I'm curious about something. If you had 4 small telescopes, would you sell them and buy one bigger telescope? Or would you do what we did and turn them into an array? Let me know in the comments. By the way, this project is actually quite massive, so we decided to turn the whole process into a video series. We'll cover the array structure, the control system, automated imaging, and the final results. If you enjoy hardcore astronomy engineering, consider subscribing, because the next episodes will get even crazier. The first problem with building an array is the cost. 4 or 5 telescopes, plus cameras, filters, and control systems can easily cost more than $15,000. So this idea never really happened. Until last month, my friend Lao Tan and I were modifying a telescope when a thought suddenly came up. Why don't we build our own array? And that's how this project started. And we discovered that if you choose the right gear, things change completely. For example, this GS350, 4 of them together cost less than $500. Originally, it's an overqualified guide scope, but it has 2 very important advantages. First, it's extremely affordable. Second, it has a flat field design, which means it can fully cover a 1-inch sensor. So we can use relatively affordable 533 or 585 cameras. As a result, a system that could normally cost more than $15,000 can now be built for under $4,000. Sounds a little crazy, right? But if this array actually works, things get even more interesting. One GS350 has a 58mm aperture and a 350mm focal length. If 4 of them work together, their total light collecting area becomes 4 times larger. Its imaging speed is roughly equivalent to a 350mm f3 lens. That's already close to a Canon 400mm f2.8, a lens that costs about $12,000. And the funny part is, to achieve this, we only used 4 guide scopes. So we prepared a complete setup, 4 GS350 telescopes as the main optics, and a GS100 as the guide scope. For cameras, we are using 4 cooled 533 cameras, among them 1 mono camera and 3 color cameras. At the same time, each telescope has its own electronic focuser, filter setup, independent power, and control box. The whole system already looks complicated, but in reality, the real challenge is only just beginning. Because for a telescope array, there's only one thing that truly matters. All telescopes must point to the same place. This is what we call co-alignment. If even one telescope is slightly misaligned, when stacking the images, a large part of the frame will be cropped. Efficiency drops dramatically, and processing becomes difficult. So we made a few modifications to these telescopes. First, we added internal flocking to all GS350 scopes. This improves contrast and star quality. The tube is very narrow, so applying it is actually quite difficult. But luckily, Lao Tan is extremely skilled. The final result looks almost perfect. Honestly, I still have no idea how he managed to do it. The second modification was structural. To allow precise alignment, we modified the front rings on 3 telescopes into a 3-point adjustable mount. This way, we simply align those 3 scopes to the main one, and the array works properly. To enable fully automated imaging, electronic focusing is essential. The GS350 can directly support an electronic focuser, but there is one small issue. The knobs on both sides need a small modification. Because the mounting plate is relatively long, we replaced the original knobs. And here is a small tip. If after installing the electronic focuser, the focuser feels a bit loose, you can replace the screws with 12mm nylon screws. This secures the focuser without affecting its alignment. Now let's talk about the camera setup. For this array we prepared 4 533 cameras. The cameras themselves actually account for about half of the total cost. And now here comes the hardcore part. Each camera has a specific role. The first mono, 533, uses an L filter to capture high-resolution luminance data. The second color, 533, with an IR cut filter captures clean RGB color. The third color, 533, with an HO narrowband filter captures hydrogen and oxygen signals. The fourth color, 533, with an SO narrowband filter captures sulfur and oxygen. Which means in a single session we can capture L, RGB, and SHO all at the same time. And for the hardest channel oxygen, we actually get double the data. Do you think this setup makes sense, or could it be improved? Let me know in the comments and we can discuss it. Now that the telescopes and cameras are ready, the biggest challenge is how to mount everything together. If we place 4 telescopes side by side, the total width is about 500mm, but the longest dovetail plate you can buy is only about 440mm. Clearly, that's not enough. So Lautan came up with a very interesting solution. We use these mounts. They are called triple finder brackets. Originally, they are designed to mount finder scopes, but we decided to use them as the structure for the array, so we prepared 6 of these brackets. First, we mounted 2 of them on the main dovetail plate. To increase rigidity, we added another dovetail plate on top as reinforcement. Then, 4 more brackets were installed on both sides. They are clamped between the upper and lower dovetail plates, and just like that, a surprisingly rigid structure appeared. The only small issue is that these brackets use a single screw for locking, so they must be tightened very firmly, otherwise they might loosen. Adding a bit of thread locker would make it even better. Next comes the most ceremonial step, mounting the telescopes one by one. When installing 4 telescopes at the same time, interference can happen. This is when the metal spacers prepared by Lautan become very useful. If the telescopes sit too close, the spacers help us adjust the distance. Very quickly, this 4-scope array started to take shape. But there is one more thing worth mentioning. A single GS350 is very lightweight, but when you multiply that by 4, it suddenly isn't so light anymore. Right now, this entire main optical system without the guide scope or cables already weighs about 11 kilograms. After everything is fully installed, it will probably reach almost 15 kilograms. For the mount, that's actually quite a lot of weight. But fortunately, my Clear Sky ST20 has plenty of capacity. 15 kilograms is not a problem. Once mounted on the equatorial mount, the overall look really comes together. Doesn't it look a little like a HIMARS rocket system? Next, there are 2 very important steps. First, rotate the cameras so all of them share the same orientation. Luckily, we are using 533 cameras. They have a square sensor, which makes alignment much easier. We only need to align one edge. The second step is to find a distant target during daytime and perform co-alignment, until all 4 telescopes point at exactly the same spot. Once all screws are tightened, the main optical system is basically finished. But the truly complicated part is actually just beginning, because next we still need to install the guide scope, guide camera, 4 control boxes, 3 power systems, 5 dew heaters, and a lot of cables. And there is one more crazy thing, a control station made from 4 tablets. It almost looks like a miniature space mission control center. In the next episode, we will install all of these devices one by one. If you enjoy this kind of hardcore astronomy engineering, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.